What would happen if you found yourself face to face with a baby Hitler? Would you feel the urge to eliminate him, thereby averting the horrors of the Holocaust? Or would you hesitate, knowing that this is a mere infant, innocent of the atrocities he would later commit? Consider for a moment that it wasn't solely Hitler himself who was to blame for the devastation of World War II. Rather, it was the societal issues of the time that molded him into the dictator we know today. If you had the power to change these societal factors, to foster an environment of acceptance and tolerance, would baby Hitler have grown into the man who instigated the genocide of 6 million Jews? But what if we flip the coin? Hitler, despite his heinous acts, did contribute to some advancements. The Autobahn, for instance, was a product of his regime. If we project all our faults onto a single person, isn't that what it means to despise Hitler? What if you did kill baby Hitler but failed to address the societal issues that fostered his rise to power? Could another child, born into the same circumstances, assume the role that Hitler played? Is it possible that this new leader could have been even more ruthless, more destructive? The rise of Hitler was not the act of a lone wolf. It was a collective movement enabled by the support of many. If we neglect to understand this nuance, we risk repeating history. We risk allowing societal problems to remain hidden, festering under a cloak of ignorance and denial. In order to effectively address societal problems, it is crucial to understand all the players involved. Unlike a game of chess, where the sides are clearly defined, real-life scenarios are far more complex. The alliances, the motivations, the fears, all these factors play a role in shaping the trajectory of history. Take Julius Caesar, for example. Was he a tyrant or a savior? Did he cross the Rubicon out of self-interest or for the common good? And when he uttered his last words, "Et tu, Brute," was he expressing shock at Brutus's betrayal, or was he questioning his own corruption? The concept of human rights, while modern in its legal framework, is rooted in age-old notions of fairness and justice. Perhaps the problems we face today are less about the actions of individual leaders and more about power dynamics within society. Is it possible that a leader must condone certain undesirable behaviors in order to maintain their position of power? In conclusion, the question of whether or not to kill baby Hitler is more complex than it seems. It forces us to examine the societal factors that contribute to the rise of dictators and to consider the potential consequences of altering history. It underscores the importance of understanding all players in societal problems and underscores the potential dangers of oversimplification. It's not just about one person, it's about the conditions that allow such a person to rise to power. As we explore the complexity of history and the rise of dictators, we are led to an equally important and controversial subject: the concept of equality within a democracy. One could argue that democracy is the greatest illusion of equality. Remember, a democracy does not require unanimous approval. It only requires a majority. This means that in a democracy, as little as 50.01% of the population can effectively oppress the remaining 49.99%. Consider this: how many people are willing to tolerate corruption and societal injustice for their own rise in power? What lengths would a spouse go to in the face of societal injustice for their own empowerment? And whom would they bully with this newfound power? The answers may be uncomfortable, but they are crucial to understanding the dynamics of power and oppression. History is filled with examples of this. Alexander the Great once said that the purpose of the conqueror is not to repeat the mistakes of the conquered. Yet, how many class systems have been created through the guise of democracy? How many times have we seen the oppressed become the oppressors once they gain power? It's a sobering thought that there may always be an oppressed segment within society, perhaps even as small as 0.1%. But the reality is, in a democratic system, these people can easily be marginalized, their voices drowned out by the majority. This is not just a potential danger, but an inherent flaw in the system. We must constantly question and challenge these dynamics. After all, a wound that starts small can fester, and if left untreated, may require drastic measures. It's a stark reminder that our actions or inactions can have far-reaching effects. The irritation of inequality, if left unchecked, can lead to a war. But are we waiting for such a drastic event to happen? Or can we learn from history and strive for a more equitable society? As we delve deeper into the labyrinth of societal constructs, let's shift our focus onto something we often take for granted: the definition of a country. It's easy to say that a country is defined by its dominant language, but is that all there is to it? Or is there something more profound behind the language being spoken? Take the Dutch, for instance. Once they were major players in the slave trade, a dark chapter in their history. But today, the Netherlands is renowned as a global leader in human rights. So, who are the real Dutch? Those who turned a blind eye to slavery in the past, or those who now champion human rights? This conundrum brings us to the concept of pseudo-nationality. Are the ones who disregard human rights the pseudo-Dutch? Or are those who advocate for them the pseudo-Dutch? It's a question that lingers not just for the Dutch, but for every nation with a complex past. It's time we rethink nationality, not based on language or borders, but on the values we uphold. It's about caring for your neighbor, not just the one next door, but the one 100 streets away or even across the ocean. This isn't just about avoiding the mistakes of the past, but about embracing a more inclusive future. It's about expanding our parameters, not for self-interest, but for the collective good. It's about redefining history, not as a series of conquests, but as a journey of empowerment. Utopia may seem like a distant dream, but it's not beyond our reach. The key is to act now. After all, what message are we sending to future generations if we don't strive for a better world today? They deserve more than just hope. They deserve to see progress. It's high time we redefine what it means to be a nation, not tomorrow, not in the future, but now.